right now. And it's something that so many Americans can relate to because of what's happening with COVID, and all of the challenges that disproportionately impact our communities. And so I just want to send my heart out to you and my prayers and let you know that I see you standing here boldly, and your mom's got to be so proud that you're still fighting for us, even given what she's experiencing. So I just wanted to take this moment for a second and just say thank you for your commitment to all of us, even given that really big challenge.
Thank you so much for acknowledging it. But I want you to know my mom is a strong woman. Her name is Doris. And she told me don't come off the road. And she said I need to win because we need a voice in Washington, D.C. that reflect all of Tennesseans and someone that really care about people.
Well, let me tell you what, if your mom is anything like Black mamas everywhere, she ain't never been wrong. So
when she tell you to do something, you better do it.
That's right. Listen, that is exactly right. I want to ask you about the presidential debate. I know.
Oh, did you see my face? Okay.
Yes. And the cold part is on my side, it was stuck like that, just, I want to know what you think about the current state of the presidential race and how it will help the race that you're running, given what we all saw last night.
I know that by looking at the debate, that you need a U.S. Senator named Marquita Bradshaw when it comes January 3rd, because they're talking about critical issues that affect our community when it comes to the Black community around. And I really want to see some of those issues around racism addressed, especially making laws to keep people from publicly demonstrating. Like, we have to deal with that and where that's coming from. And so that's that deep-seated racism that we have to address head on. And when you look at they talked about some crucial things last night. And I don't know if a lot of people understand why they're talking about these issues, especially when it comes to climate change. A lot of people don't want to recognize climate change, but they do understand that pollution exists. And so let's talk about pollution. And the only way that you can deal with climate change is start to move away from pollution, that we need industries, we need infrastructures that do not base our economy on pollution and pain. And so what happens in rural Tennessee, what happens in the cities of Tennessee, you have populations that either get a prison or either a nuclear plant.
Yeah.
And that's not freedom, when you are forced to go to work and you're polluting your community at the same time. Or you are in a community in South Memphis and you already have disproportionately been exposed to pollution. So let's talk about what the landscape of Tennessee looks like so people can have a clear picture of what the disparities look like in Tennessee when it comes to pollution. I'm going to use two towns. I'm going to use Memphis. South Memphis is where I grew up, in part of Memphis, and Morristown. And so I did say environmental racism does include Black, brown, indigenous, and poor white communities. And so Tennessee has 95 counties. We have 1,100 Superfund sites, either national priority lists, active, or either archived. So 1,100. We have 95 counties. And when you look at the city of Memphis, one city in the state of Tennessee, we have 220. That's unacceptable. That means that our elected officials did not have enough information or either did not care about we were an environmental justice community. And when you look across Tennessee, you look at Morristown, where based on their population, they have so many industries that they have their burden of pollution. Either way, it's unacceptable, and it's time that we not put what's going on in the environment in the back burner. The hill we live on in Tennessee that we want is clean air, clean water, and clean soil, because without that, nobody can live. And our economy will decline if we do not deal with pollution.
No, that's exactly right. And if we keep electing people, or somebody keeps electing people who don't believe in science, right? Don't believe that these things can have adverse impact on communities, on people, on kids in school, like on our elders, as you mentioned. Marquita, I want to ask you to. I got a call in the middle of my live. That was my fault. I was gonna say I want to ask you about. We have a big event tomorrow, so because we have this big event tomorrow, the phone is going crazy. But we, you know, one of the things that you mentioned that I just have to take a moment again to pause about is Memphis. And Memphis has a very, very special place in my heart. I got connected with a bunch of tremendous activists on the ground in Memphis a couple of years ago. And there's just something so special about Memphis to me. And knowing that you're from there, I'm like, of course, no wonder. And so, you know, Marquita, when I think about what Memphis needs, there's so much power in Memphis, you know, in the soul of Memphis, if you know what I mean. And for whatever reason, there is a stronghold on many of the communities where our folks live, and they haven't really been able to step into their power, especially politically. What are some of the things that you would say to people at home who are watching and need to know, right? Like, you are powerful and you do matter. Y'all, they volunteering over there. Don't bother Marquita. They got text bank and phone bank, so they gonna make a little noise, and that's okay.
That's fine. Look, let me tell you how powerful your voice is. It's worth a lot to people to be able to control whether or not you vote or not. When you look at how much money Republicans are raising to keep power, that shows you that your voice is worth more than that. Your voice is worth more than money. And see, I don't come from money. I come from people who work hard, and I knew that there was a pathway to victory by connecting hardworking people all over the state, letting them know that I was here listening and that we stand together. And when we stand together, we win. We're contacting over 300,000 voters a day. We've already contacted 1.5 million. We're actually had 1.1 million people register for the first time in the state of Tennessee. That shows you that we are different, and that just didn't come out of the blue.
Yeah.
That comes from people on the ground working hard. That comes from people understanding that they are powerful. And the best way to get involved is find your voice. And the first way is to register to vote. And then actually exercise your right to vote. And once you get through with that, work with me to hold me accountable as your next United States Senator. And look for transparency. Because that's what I want for myself, and that's what I want for you.
And I know that you're going to get it. Marquita, there's just something about your spirit. Like, you know, it's so hard to connect to people virtually, and I just believe the genuine nature of what you're saying. I know and can, like, completely hear and see that environmental justice is one of your priorities, not just for folks in Memphis, but all of the country. I can hear and see that healthcare is one of those things, or access to healthcare, ending health disparities is one of those things. What do you think would be the first issue that you took on in the United States Senate? And I'd love to hear about any committees where you would like to serve in the Senate.
All right, so I'm going to push back and say you can't just work on one issue when you get to the United States Senate.
Oh, no, I don't mean that. I mean like one of the first. I mean one of the first.
So it's not one thing that I can actually work on if I'm looking at policy holistically. When you look at environmental justice, you look at what policies does it take for people to have healthy and safe communities where they live, learn, work, worship, and recreate. So that means that I will be working on infrastructure, making sure our infrastructure has a just transition away from pollution, and also updating our water infrastructure, our energy infrastructure, our sewage infrastructure, and because that's part of us being healthy and safe, knowing that everybody needs health care, knowing that everybody needs a high quality education, because you can't get a professional without going through a teacher being paid professionally, and fully funding our education, because all of these things are so intertwined, and you can't take one without the other. So of course, I would want to be on the the oh my goodness, I have a list of committees that I want to be on that I have written on the paper.
Yeah.
But of course, dealing with
I wish we had you on judiciary this week.
you know
Let
what?
me tell you.
Exactly, because I would say the next president should decide, and they know better, because they're
Yeah.
trying to break precedent, and because they're power hungry and they're thirsty, and they're trying to hijack the process even more. And that's not going to work because people are wise and they know what's going on. That's the reason why I could sit still and I had to run for U.S. Senate, is because it called to my heart that I wanted to serve. And so when it comes to education, I'll be on the committees about education, making sure it's fully funded, the same as our military, because our children are just that important. We should have a world-class educational system. When it comes to the environment, you know, the energy means, and looking at how our energy is made and our infrastructure, that would be a committee that I would be on. And it's, you know, as a junior senator, you know, I would be so excited to make sure that people understand the committees that I was on and what they do, because a lot of people don't even know what a U.S. Senator does.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And you know, to that point, Marquita, you have had such a common touch in your approach, so much so that your average donation has been a little over $24. And there's a moment on Twitter where you said, "A single mother knows how to make a dollar stretch in a way a rich man simply doesn't." I would love to hear you speak not only about your fundraising and how that's gone with everyday Americans, but other ways that you, as a single mom, will make things stretch and make things work that rich and out of touch folks will not be able to in the Senate.
Absolutely. One thing for sure, that means that if I'm frugal for me, then I'm going to be looking to make sure that there's no fat in places there it shouldn't be, and trim that down, and making sure that the money is spent in places that actually build up our communities and make our strong local economies strong, because that's what build up our nation, the strength of our families and our local economies. And we have to make sure that people have the support to not only get through what's going on right now with this pandemic, but also to build better than what was before, because before it wasn't working, and we have the opportunity to move forward.
That's right. When you think about the ways that you would like to ensure that Memphis moves forward, we talked about the environment. Of course, we've talked about education. We talked a little bit about the economy. Can you speak to some of your ideas about criminal justice reform? I know that you're supportive of recreational marijuana, for example. What are some other ways that you want to see the criminal justice system reformed on the local, state, and federal level to ensure a more free Memphis, more free Black and Brown America, and other folks who've been adversely impacted by the criminal justice system?
Look, my family has been impacted by the criminal justice system. Once you have a family member who's been left out of the economic system and also not able to go back and get education, they are left without tools to support themselves. So that means that other working family members have to pull together to make sure that that person is okay, and not just for food and housing, but also the toll it takes on a mental health when you're